Welcome, students, to the first novel, To Serve with Love. First, we are going to check with a summary from the textbook. Summary of the novel: To Serve with Love is a work of fiction based on the life of author E. R. Braithwaite. The main character, E. R. Braithwaite, works as an engineer in an oil refinery. He served in the Royal British Air Force in the war. After the war, being a black person, he was unable to find employment. As a last resort, he applied in a school to become a teacher. Surprisingly, he is accepted at the Green Slate School in London's East End and is set to teach the senior classes of the school. Here in this para, we come to know that it's an autobiography of E. R. Braithwaite. Okay, and he is an engineer by his degree, and he started working in the early phase in an oil refinery. And then, when there was World War II, he was serving the Royal British Air Force, which was a very prestigious job. But when the World War was over, he was removed from his job. The only reason was why? Because he was a black person. He belonged to the black community. And as you know, racism was very prevalent at that time. So at last, he applied in a school and he got a job in a school as a teacher in a high school. Let's see what happened next. While reading the novel, we have to understand that the time period in which the story takes place is very important. Braithwaite himself, Braithwaite finds that even though he considers himself British and has served in the Royal Air Force, the English do not consider him to be one of them. This leads Braithwaite to feel bitter about the English and colonialism as well as about his white students. Here we come to know as he was not accepted by the white people, he felt betrayed. Though he was working for RAF, that is Royal Air Force, but then too he was not considered as English. He was born and brought up in England, but then too he was not accepted as an English person. Braithwaite's teaching position starts out roughly and is embarrassed time and again. He considers his students disrespectful, ill-mannered, and mischievous, while his students consider him to be an arrogant outsider, unfamiliar with the social environment in which they have grown up. The students harass him from day one, slamming their desk during his lecture, using foul language, and bullying him to a great extent. Even the do not girl students' reaction to that. Sorry, I missed the line. Even the girl students do not spare a moment to harass Braithwaite. In a reaction to that, Braithwaite verbally scolds the girls for acting in an unladylike manner and being unruly in the class. Sorry, students, the font was very small, so I was not able to read. But then too, okay, I'll tell you the further what happened over here. Braithwaite, okay, when he started teaching in the school, the experience was not good because there was no connectivity between the students and the teachers. He used to shout and scream. The students used to shout and scream, and according to Braithwaite, the students were disrespectful, ill-mannered. Okay, and the students used to think this man is very, very arrogant, outsider. Very important word, outsider. They didn't consider him as a own person, outsider, because the black people were not considered as English. Okay, so now here, when even the girls in the class were very much rude to him, one day he told the girls, means verbally, he can't use his hands or like anything with the girls. So he told them, "You are very unlady," because when you call a lady, means she is a very sophisticated girl. So here he called them unlady. The behavior is like unlady. When he understands that his outburst has not gained him any respect and cooperation from the students, he changes his teaching and handling tactics and he decides to interact with them as though They are adults and respectable persons. He requires He requires every girl be referred as a miss and that his students call him sir. At first, the students find this level of difference ridiculous and unnecessary. However, they came around after only a few weeks, completely changing both their hygiene and their attitudes toward one another. This marks the success of Brathwaite in handling the students in a very amicable way. Now, what happens later? Brathwaite understood shouting is not working out. Okay, so I have to change my way. So somehow he changes his way. He starts respecting the students. He starts listening to them. He calls every girl as miss. He makes a rule in the class that all the girls in the class should be called as miss, and in return every student will call him as sir. Okay, and slow and steady he started working on them, having a good relation with the students, and he was successful to connect with students. How he did that? To increase the class cultural exposure, he takes them on field trips and excursions to museums and theaters. To everyone's surprise, many of the students have never been. The white female teacher, Gillian Blanchard, accompanies the class on these excursions. This marks the beginning of a friendship between Blanchard and Brathwaite. Similarly, Brathwaite's relationship with his student is tested many a times. Now, what happened? Now, to create more enthusiasm in the students for learning, he takes the students for field trips, he takes them for picnics, to museums, theaters, and to a surprise, many of the students have never visited a theater or a museum. So they started creating interest in it. And when he went to the excursions, along with him, Blanchard, a white teacher, accompanied him, and a friendship between Brathwaite and Blanchard started. Okay, and even students' relation also improved. Although his students frequently disappointed and hurt him, he learns to forgive them. The students constantly surprise him with their maturity, empathy, and knowledge. Later, many a time, see, slow and steady, the frequency of ill-manneredness in the class decreased. Okay, but then too, some students used to disappoint him, hurt him, but he learned to forgive them. He used to forgive them, and this way he won the hearts of all the students. Another facet of the story which greatly offers is its narrative lies in the heavy history of colonialism, its dark consequences, mental and physical trauma that increases Brathwaite's hatred and wrath for British. He constantly feels the prejudicial effects of colonialism while living in England after World War II, and these negative experiences frequently shape the thoughts and actions. Brathwaite is surprised and shocked by the conditions in which these students live and also the physical trauma of the war that can be seen throughout his teaching environment. In the last para, we have seen that the major effect of his teaching or the surrounding was because of colonialism and racism. Means there was racism, the black and white racism was very prevalent at that time in the society. Now you have to remember the scene is happening in 1940 and 50 around, okay, at that time, where people used to consider the black as the downtrodden. They never used to consider them as in the member of the society. So that's the reason why Brathwaite was very was having a hatred for the Britishers. Though he used to think himself is a British, but people were not accepting him. So this is the summary of the novel. Let's see the themes. Themes means what is the story is based on. Now, if you go back in the summary, we have seen that there was student-teacher relationship, prejudice, and racism are the major themes of the novel. Prejudice means basically prejudice means to have a thinking from beginning that yes, blacks are bad means bad. Racism, the white and the black, it is considered the whites are superior and the blacks are inferior. So these are the major themes of the novel. Let's see in detail. You have to explain point wise. E.R. Braithwaite gets a job of a teacher in a rather rough and notorious school. He finds that the students belong to a background that is not suitable for learning and their overall development and progress. He notices that the students are in no mood to change their attitude and behavior. Braithwaite, with his novel and creative ideas, innovative techniques, and understanding the students' psychology, ultimately wins their hearts in no time. Though he was bullied, harassed, mentally and physically tortured many times, he didn't lose his patience and continued implementing his novel ideas and techniques that helped him to bring a significant change in his students' life. Now, see, one point is explained over here, that is student teacher relationship. You have to explain in the first stanza how student teacher relationship was developed. In the beginning, there were fights between Braithwaite and the students. Students were not ready to accept him. Then he came up with many innovative ideas, and thus the relationship developed. Okay, so this is what the student teacher relationship. Now let's go to the next part. The racism prevalent in Great Britain during the mid-1940s, the time period during which To Serve with Love takes place, is of primary significance in the novel. The narrator cites repeated incidents in which he experiences the racism of white Britons, including encounters on the bus, at the job interviews, at Greenslade School, when searching for housing, or at a restaurant with his girlfriend, and so on. So racism means how he was abused. He was not getting place to stay. Okay, when he was searching for a house, when he went to the restaurant, he was not treated well. Okay, and then even when he was not getting a job also, though he was well qualified, but he was not getting a job because of racism. So second point is explained. At the outset, Braithwaite is struck by the expectedness of such prejudice. He was brought up in a British Guiana and viewed himself as a British citizen, not as a black British citizen in a British colony. When he served Great Britain in the Royal Air Force, that gave him respect and esteem in the society. The day he left the job, he finds himself to be an outsider. See, prejudice means a thinking. Now here, when he was working for the Air Force, okay, that too the Royal Air Force, he was treated very well and all those respect he was getting it. But as soon as he left the job, he was an outsider, a black outsider. Braithwaite's extensive experience in education was of no use in job interviews, where he is informed that the job has already been filled or he is overqualified for it. When he goes for the interview, people are telling that you are either, means your qualification is more than what we require, okay, or they used to say someone has been already allotted the job. This heightens Braithwaite's sense of betrayal. He feels like he has been betrayed. Okay, that though I am being a part of this country, I am not getting my rights. So betrayal, the belief, the feeling of betrayal is their major theme. Interestingly, he never lashes out physically and only rarely does he do so verbally. He exhibits patience, endurance at times, and at others he describes the way the rage inside him is transforming into hatred so strong that he desires to hurt those who treat him unfairly. As a result of such experience, Braithwaite finds the students at the Green Slate School to be a hit, notorious, and rough in behavior. But with his proper care and treatment, all the students would surely achieve success and desired goals in their lives. So at the end the paragraph, it has been said how his, though he was a black, but then the students accepted him as a teacher. Why? Because he came up with his innovative ideas. So these are the major three themes. If you look at point wise, the themes are student teacher relationship, racism in Great Britain, and sense of betrayal. So to end up with this, I'll just tell in the exam, see, there will be a 4-mark question and they will ask the theme of, okay, 4-mark question for theme of To Serve with Love. So you should write point number 1, student teacher relationship, explain how the story. Then racism in Great Britain, what happened, how he was treated, okay. Then sense of betrayal, why that sense of betrayal is there. In the next lecture, I'll come back with you with the other points, what you have to learn from this novel To Serve with Love. Thank you, students.